Welcome. We will now commence our study of tort law, focusing on Unit 4 of the syllabus for the LL.B. first semester. The topic for this lecture is Judicial and Extra-Judicial Remedies. This module will examine the legal mechanisms available to an individual when a civil wrong, or tort, has been committed. We begin with Section 1, the Principle of Remedy. To understand the application of remedies in tort law, we must first establish the foundational legal principle upon which all forms of redress are built. This principle forms the bedrock of our justice system. The guiding legal maxim is ubi jus ibi remedium. This is a Latin phrase which translates to, "There is no wrong without a remedy." This principle establishes that where a legal right has been infringed, the law must provide a means to rectify that infringement. The existence of a right implies the existence of a corresponding remedy. Let us formally define the term. A remedy is the means prescribed by law to enforce a right or redress an injury. Its purpose is to provide relief to the aggrieved party while simultaneously imposing an obligation on the wrongdoer. It is the legal mechanism for achieving justice after a tort has occurred. Proceeding to Section 2, Two Paths to Redress. This section provides a classification of legal remedies. The law provides for two distinct categories of remedies, each with its own procedures and applications. The classification of remedies is twofold. First, we have judicial remedies. These are remedies administered by the courts of justice through formal legal processes. Second, we have extrajudicial remedies. These are remedies available to the injured party outside of court proceedings, which can often be implemented through their own direct actions. This table provides a comparative analysis of the two redressal methods. Regarding the feature of process, extrajudicial remedies involve no court intervention, whereas judicial remedies require formal legal proceedings. Regarding force, extrajudicial remedies permit the use of reasonable force, which is absent in judicial remedies. Regarding speed, extrajudicial remedies are often immediate, while judicial remedies can be protracted. Regarding compensation, extrajudicial remedies generally do not provide monetary compensation, which is a primary outcome of judicial remedies. Lastly, regarding legality, extrajudicial actions are lawful if reasonable, while judicial remedies are inherently legally sanctioned. We now move to Section 3, Judicial Remedies Explained. This section focuses on redress that is sought and administered through the formal court system. This is the most common form of legal recourse. There are three primary modes of judicial remedies. 1. Damages, which is money awarded as compensation for a loss. 2. Injunctions, which are court orders compelling a party to either perform an act or refrain from performing an act. 3. Specific restitution of property, which is a court order to return property that was wrongfully dispossessed. These remedies are governed by the Specific Relief Act 1963 and the Code of Civil Procedure 1908. We will now examine Section 4, Extrajudicial Remedies Explained. These are lawful self-help measures that an aggrieved party may take without the intervention of the courts. They provide an alternative to formal litigation in specific circumstances. Key examples of extrajudicial remedies include self-defense, the right to protect oneself from harm using reasonable force; expulsion of trespasser, the right of an occupier of land to remove a trespasser; re-entry on land, the right of a person wrongfully dispossessed of land to retake possession peacefully; abatement of nuisance, the removal or termination of a nuisance by the party harmed; and distress damage facent, the right to seize trespassing animals or chattels that have caused damage, holding them as security for compensation. Section 5 will cover application in law. We will now analyze how these principles are applied through a review of legal precedent and practical scenarios to illustrate their real-world function. We will analyze the landmark case of Ashby v. White, citation 1073 1 ER 417, using the IRAC method. The issue was whether the denial of a legal right, such as the right to vote, constitutes a legal injury for which an action lies, even if no actual financial loss is suffered. The rule applied was the maxim ubi jus ibi remedium. The application of the rule determined that the violation of a legal right is an injury in itself, regardless of pecuniary loss. The conclusion of the court was that the defendant was held liable because the infringement of a legal right is actionable per se. Consider the following problem. The branches of A's tree are overhanging onto B's house, causing rainwater to pour onto B's roof and damage the ceiling. The question is, does B have a remedy available without resorting to court proceedings? The solution is the extrajudicial remedy of abatement of nuisance. However, its lawful exercise is subject to 3 conditions. Step 1. The act must be peaceable. Step 2. It must be done without danger to life or limb. Step 3. Prior notice must usually be given to Party A before the branches are cut, providing them an opportunity to rectify the nuisance themselves. This final section, Section 6, provides a key exam revision. It is a summary of the core concepts discussed throughout this lecture, designed to aid in academic review and preparation. For your revision, please note these key points. The key principle is ubi jus ibi minium. The judicial remedies are damages, injunctions, and specific restitution of property. The extrajudicial remedies include self-defense, expulsion of trespassers, re-entry on land, abatement of nuisance, and distress damage phased. The standard for force in extrajudicial remedies is that it must be reasonable force. The key statute is the Specific Relief Act 1963. The leading case is Ashby v. White. In conclusion, remedies are the legal instruments that ensure rights are not merely theoretical concepts, but are practically enforceable. The dual system of judicial and extrajudicial remedies provides a balance between the need for speedy, direct relief and the detailed, precise application of justice administered by the courts.